I pledge allegiance to the taco stands of the United Tacos of America, and to the taqueros and abuelas of this great land, one nation, under tortillas, with limones and salsas for all. I'm Mando Rayo.
And I'm Jarod, Neece.
And we're still taco journalists,
exploring tacos and taco culture throughout the United States. Today, we're going to be talking about a pretty heavy subject. That's food justice.
That's right. We often hear about, the story of the food, and it's so delicious and yummy. But, when you start to peel away the layers, you kind of get maybe a skewed picture, right? Mm-hmm. So you don't get the full story, And so what we're trying to do today is dig into that.
Food justice is pretty much, seeing healthy food as a human right. And it's addressing many structural barriers to that right. And we're going to talk with some people that know a lot more about this subject than we do, like we like to do. We're going to be talking to Miss Karen Washington. In 2012, Ebony named her as one of the most influential African Americans in the United States. She is a outspoken person on food rights and food justice, and we're excited to have her.
And we're also talking to producer and host of The Racist Sandwich, Stephanie Kuo. And she's going to talk to us about the media landscape and kind of what she's seeing, the coverage of food through that media lens.
That's right. And then we're going to, wrap that all in a nice, warm flour tortilla and serve it to you.
Some of these issues that we've been uncovering and highlighting and continue to, we still need to, because when you look at like food inequities or where that food comes from and who grew it and who made it, is when you think about who's being impacted, especially right now with COVID, it's essential workers. Mm-hmm. And most of those essential workers, when you think about it, it's Black and brown people. But then when you look at the media landscape, who's getting recognized for that food, it's not those people,
I think that who is essential has changed a lot, and a lot of people's eyes have been open in these past few months on, restaurants and grocery store workers and people that are the whole food supply chain. Like, these people are the essential workers.
They are the backbone, of America, because they're staying open. And not only are they there to, run their business, but feed America, really. It's people that are just doing what they do to survive and to do their own craft because they want to make that food for their community. This is a very important subject that I think we, as taco journalists, have to continue to kind of,
shine a light on,
bring those conversations forward, because we have the platform to do that. Even though there's been like this recognition, especially now in these times, we're gonna dig into some of those issues and try to uncover, some of the things that, we discuss in our previous episodes, in the first season. It's, families that we visit in Kentucky and New York, where we talk about, who gets credit for the Mexican food, or when we talked to Johnny Walker in the Austin episode around African-American barbecue and how they've been slighted, and really kind of that's the roots of barbecue. So, but they're not getting the accolades or the acknowledgement.
It feels like we've been, beating this drum for a long time. And, I know that it's a subject that's near and dear to you and I.
It's 2020, and we still need to figure out how to recognize that, and especially in the media landscape.
So this is a special episode, Mando.
Yeah, food justice.
First, everybody's favorite segment, taco shout-outs. That's right. This way, we're going to do a little kind of the food justice version this week.
That's right.
I got one for you, Mando.
All right.
Back in 2017, these two burrito truck owners had their operation shut down after bragging on social media about stealing recipes from tortillas from Mexican cocineros.
Oh, I remember that.
They were from Portland.
Yeah, don't do that, Portland.
Don't.
I remember that story because they were interviewed about it and they were like
They
acting
thought it was
like,
so cool.
yeah, like ha ha.
We
They
did it.
they didn't let us like see their recipes, so we peered over a window so we can see how they were doing it. Like haha, that's funny. Haha, no. This is another taco shout out. Rodney Scott is the first African American pitmaster to get a James Beard Chef Award in 2018.
Wow.
Like, I don't know how many years James Beard has been around, but Black people have been doing barbecue since, they've got here. That's kind of very telling of what media, how they've acknowledged or even in some cases erased that history.
Not great, but I'm glad they recognize Rodney.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see more and more of that, more equity in that space.
Yeah, earlier this year, I believe, our friend Armando Vera from Vera's Backyard Barbecue, who's been doing barbacoa the old school fashion way in a pit, he got a legacy award from the James Beard Foundation. So I'm glad.
Good job, James Beard.
I'm glad there's more of that happening now. Bon Appetit CEO was basically called out for brownface. And this just happened maybe a month ago.
They had the receipts.
Yeah. There was a lot of people of color that worked at Bon Appetit came out to say, hey, this is a toxic workplace. He basically resigned or was made to resign, what have you.
Either way, no mas.
No mas.
All right, that's right, Bon Appetit. Thanks for making the right choice.
And, let's live and learn. I'm Mando Rayo.
And I'm Jarod Neece.
And we're here to talk about a subject that I feel is very important to us, is like, where does our food come from and who gets to tell these stories? We have a community activist, Ms. Karen Washington, and from The Racist Sandwich, we have Stephanie Kuo joining us. Stephanie, let's start with you. Can you give us a little bit about your background and what led you to work with The Racist Sandwich or even in this space?
In the same way that a lot of people come into food, they just like eating it, they like experimenting.
Yeah.
I grew up traveling all over the world with my dad. And so there's just always a part of me that liked it from the aspect of like a leisure. As a journalist, I was really starting to see where food and all those topics were intersecting and where I feel like traditional food media wasn't paying homage correctly or respecting any of that background. I'm really fascinated with the direction that food media is going in and the stories that are finally being talked about. Granted, there's still so much work to be done.
Karen, why don't you talk about your upbringing and, how connected or how disconnected we are with the food?
Yeah, so I'm a long life New Yorker, grew up in the projects, went to school to become a physical therapist. So I saw the intersection between food and health with a lot of my patients who were Black and brown and who grew up on farms. And then also I saw the disconnect that was happening within our city. I mean, back in the day, kids thought literally that food came from a grocery store. And so it's been a long journey trying to really educate people, especially young people, exactly where their food comes from. And also trying to get people to understand that as Black and brown people, we came from the land. This is part of our history. When we talk about agriculture, we need to talk about the culture. And so now we're starting to bring that in the forefront. You see community gardens popping up all over the place. And now you see people having an interest in growing food and where their food comes from, because it doesn't come from a grocery store. It comes from the land.
So, Karen, why are urban farms such a powerful and necessary resource in the city?
Back in the 70s and 80s, when it was white flight, we had 15,000 vacant lots, mostly low-income neighborhoods and neighborhoods of color. White people left the suburbs. Black and brown people stayed and turned those empty lots into community garden. They become resource centers, educational centers, safe haven, growing food, growing culture. And now it's a powerful movement, and you're seeing it across this country.
We see it, as people of color, but, when I look out in the media, I don't see that represented. Stephanie, can you talk about kind of where media has been, and are they having a wake-up moment right now, especially now with a lot of the racial injustices happening?
podcasts like The Racist Sandwich and a lot of the writers that we featured on our show and the writers that we try to amplify every day, we've known about, we began doing this work, or we really started pushing that work because we saw how whitewashed food media was. Traditional legacy food media outlets like Bon Appetit, Savoir, the Food Network even, how they were really not giving credit where credit was due. They were fully erasing cultures. They were appropriating cultures. And when they ever tried to do something that was what they called ethnic, exotic, or foreign, all those words that are really icky, they did them really wrong. And there was a moment where people of color, writers of color, purveyors of color really felt empowered enough to speak about it, speak up and be louder about it, that a lot of traditional food media outlets are thinking a bit more progressively in this space.
What are the advantages of, say, if you're a person of color and you're still, trying to figure this out, how can they take, some basic steps into understanding where their food comes from?
What I tell my young people when I go out and I speak in public is, I say, if you have a grandmother, grandfather, take out your Samsung Galaxies and your iPhones and collect those stories. Those stories of how it was growing up on the farm, how it was getting food from the land. Because if you don't have those stories, 10, 12 years from now, they'll tell your family never farmed. You never had any land. And I also tell people, please, if you have land in Puerto Rico, in Latin American countries, in the Caribbean, in the South, hold on to that land. That land is power. That land is your legacy. And these are the things that we're trying to tell our young people. And thank goodness they're starting to listen, because they understand the power of land ownership, the power of knowing where the food comes from. That's powerful. And that's something that no one can take away from them.
Media often talks about representing who gets to represent the food, who represents the culture. But how does the people aspect come into play there? Because you can have a white chef make, some great Vietnamese food or Mexican food or what have you, or soul food, but who gets to tell that story?
I would say that like a really well-meaning chef who, spent a lot of work learning how to do that food correctly still had to learn it from somebody that came from that culture directly. Like, no one wants to talk to the person who isn't famous, who's on the ground level doing all the work, because then how would they sell magazines? And I think that a part of what food media, what progressive food media, progressive, diverse, and inclusive food media is trying to do is to institute that paradigm shift where we are actually going to deprioritize famous white men and, to an extent, famous white women. There's nothing wrong with the individual white chef who does anything. You are entitled to cook, make whatever you want. Anyone can do whatever they want at home. It comes down to a system that grants ownership to different people.
Do you feel like change can happen?
Change is going to happen. Wait a second. First of all, COVID happened. We can't go back. COVID has happened. COVID has changed everything. All right, so let's go there now. So COVID has changed, and now you have Black Lives Matter. We are not going back. The door is open, and now is young people going to swing it wide open. We're not going back. Those days are over.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
What I and my co-host and what everyone in the space that we inhabit is trying to do is to disempower that system and move the mic elsewhere.
Folks, it's a wake-up call. Start supporting those people within our community, those Black and brown businesses. Start supporting them with your dollars. Make sure money comes back into our community that builds our community and not being extracted where we lose our power.
That's right.
That's perfect, because, I think that there's something important happening right now at this specific time, and we need to take reins of that. I just wanted to thank both of you for this just amazing, meaningful, and thoughtful conversation with us.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks
Nice
for
to meet you,
having us.
Stephanie.
I'm Mando Rayo.
And I'm Jarod Neece.
And today we're here with Alejandra Rodriguez, a.k.a. La Flaca, right? Thanks for being here. We're super excited to eat your food. It smells amazing, by the way.
Thank you, guys. I'm originally from Monterrey, Mexico. I moved to Austin 8 years ago. couldn't find the ingredients I wanted to recreate authentic Mexican recipes because at this point I've been 2 years in Austin, so I'm getting homesick. And I wanted to recreate a traditional Oaxacan mole. And to do that, you need Chile Chihuakle, which is a pepper you don't really find outside of Mexico. So I started growing this among other things, and then one day just hit me. What if I start talking to chefs or restaurants and seeing what they would like to add to their menus and start growing them for them? And from that, here we are.
Oh, nice.
Everything you see on this table, all the herbs, flowers, chiles, all that was grown in our farm located right here in Austin. It looks at first sight just like a regular house, but then you go through the gate and there's a hidden farm in the middle of the suburb. We grow over 100 varieties of herbs, edible flowers, and peppers. And we specialize in growing a lot of traditional Mexican ingredients. We have from our farm today, Noja Santa.
Noja Santa, very nice.
Noja Santa is used a lot in traditional Mexican cuisine, both to do things like a Oaxacan green mole, but also we use it as a wrapping.
Okay.
So for example, for special occasions, you grab a piece of fish or a tamal, you wrap it in a Noja Santa, and it's something like very special, like unwrapping a gift.
Yeah, exactly.
So today, first we're gonna start with something that I grew up with. So Sunday brunch at my house was barbacoa with a Piquin sauce. Where I'm from, Monterrey, food is very similar to Texas. You know, it's fire, salt, and meat. For our salsa, we have Chile Piquin. Chile Piquin is very closely related to wild chiles.
They have the bolitas. They're the bolitas, right?
Yeah.
The little balls.
Little baby,
Little balls,
Yeah.
Okay.
super spicy.
Yeah,
They are
super
small but mighty. And a lot of people don't know, but if you have acid reflux or something like that, Chile Piquin is not as irritant to the stomach. So if you have any issues with digestion, maybe try Chile Piquin and it might not upset your stomach that
As
much.
opposed to like a jalapeno or serrano or something like that.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, my philosophy is like, eat more chile and it'll go away.
Yeah,
what my
that's
husband
Mando's
says.
philosophy.
But not everybody has that kind of stomach, Mando. Not everybody has a goat stomach.
Are you kind of just toasting them right now?
Yeah, chiles whole.
Okay.
We're putting them in a little heat. You let them blister a little. You can start smelling them more.
Yeah.
And once that's heated up, we take our mighty molcajete.
Yeah.
Very important, lime juice, and these have to be key limes. If you use regular limes or lemons, it's not gonna have the proper acidity, and this is not gonna work.
Okay.
And the final ingredient is our taco sal.
Is that something you guys make?
Yeah, so we have a whole line of salts that
Oh, wow.
incorporates peppers and herbs from our farm. That way, whether it's in season or not, you can have it in your pantry.
Oh, okay.
Cilantro and onion. So we're gonna put
Okay.
that into
Nice.
our sal. Run it a little with the molcajete.
Yep. Grind
Just a
it.
bit.
Did you make this barbacoa?
I did make this barbacoa from scratch, and actually my favorite way to make it is I really like lengua.
Oh, yeah.
It's not as fatty as if, like, cabeza is delicious, but it's super fatty.
Super
Super
fatty.
How are you guys, like, spice-wise?
I'm the chiloso.
Bring it.
He does it all.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a bunch of different herbs that are very traditional to Mexico. And first off, I would like to talk about epazote. Epazote has a lot of essential oils that help with digestion. So actually adding a couple of leaves of epazote to your beans will make them easier to digest.
Interesting.
Yeah. So those are the flavors that I grew up with. But when it comes to Mexico, you know, there's many different colors and flavors. So using all these beautiful herbs, I wanted to make for you a Oaxacan green mole. Moles come in all flavors.
Yeah.
But they always taste like moles.
Yeah.
A bunch of things went in there: serrano, tomatillo, ajonjolí, pumpkin seeds. It was like a 6-hour process yesterday, but right now we're gonna do the final
Step.
Yes.
The final touch. We're gonna toast this leaf a little,
Okay.
and once we put it on the heat, you almost immediately can start smelling like
Okay.
the sweet notes. And that we're gonna then chop it up, put it into our mole, a little bit of the mole verde
Exciting.
with a little piece of homemade tortilla.
Oh, thank you.
But yeah, you should be able to get, you know, the flavor of the chicken that's been cooking there forever and all the seeds.
Oh, yeah. That's good.
And then you finish it all with the herbs.
Oh, man. It's like nice and light and fresh.
And that you can taste that, like, you're saying that like the licorice, right?
Yeah.
You're kind of going back to the roots, right? To your roots, but the roots of farming and agriculture?
Like the big picture is trying to flip the script of changing agriculture from a system of exploitation to a system of collaboration, where we work with nature, we work with each other, where Latinos and Blacks get to own the fruits of their labor.
As you work with your partners, with like the chefs that you work or the restaurants, do you think you're making movement there in their perception of who can be the boss or who can be the entrepreneur or the owner?
There's always going to be resistance, especially in a place like Texas. One of my employees is a big white dude, and when I started to working with him, everybody would assume that he was the boss. So yeah, I'm very comfortable in challenging those perceptions because yeah, that's been my whole career.
Well, Alejandra, it's been amazing. Everything was amazing.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your story with us. Thank you for sharing your mole with us, your peppers, your spices.
Un placer.
Todo.